Hello, I'm Donna Rodriguez here with This Week in Plymouth, joined each week by our town manager, Derek Brindisi. Derek, thank you for coming in again this week.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, especially on an off day
I know.
with the holiday and everything.
I know. Well, let's actually start with that. It was a really wonderful commemoration, memorial yesterday in Plymouth. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I had the opportunity to attend my first Memorial Day event here in town, and I was a spectator more than anything. Again, a special thanks to Roxanne Whitbeck. She's our veterans agent. She did an amazing job putting this together.
She's
All of our
always
veterans
amazing.
came out. We had folks from the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, band. So it was a really good event, and the best part about it is we had great weather.
Absolutely, and I think people were so thankful to be able to have another larger Memorial Day celebration and tribute to the folks we lost and to all of our veterans. So thank you for being a part of it.
Yeah, no, again, it was great. And, I think a lot of municipalities, I know in my prior community, we had a virtual Memorial Day event where folks weren't able to participate. So, I talking to some of the folks just in the crowd yesterday, they were surprised how many people came out, given this was the first time back. So again, it was a great event. And, like you said, it's an opportunity to recognize and remember all of those servicemen and women who have gone before us and who give us the freedoms that we have today. So I really appreciate that. I appreciate Memorial Day and Veterans Day. Those are my two favorite holidays every year.
Absolutely, I would have to agree with you with that. There are a lot of things happening in Plymouth, so a lot of exciting things happening that you want to fill everybody in on, starting off with legislation at the state level, the forward legislation. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what it means to Plymouth?
Yeah, so we received a late notice last week. Lieutenant Governor Karen Polito is going to be here this coming Thursday down at the state boat ramp at the harbor to announce this legislation called Forward. It's approximately a $3.5 billion spending package, and it's really to help the Commonwealth as a whole kind of move forward and get through the pandemic. It's focused on workforce housing, economic development, clean energy. It's got a lot of different components built into the legislation, and the town of Plymouth is really lucky because the town as a whole is going to get about $4.4 million of that money. That's
incredible. And this money is being shared across all 351 communities in the Commonwealth, correct?
Yeah, that's right. So every community is going to get a small sum of this money, again, to focus on what's important to their community. So here in town, approximately $3 million, a little bit north of that, is going to go towards reconstructing the parking lot over at the state boat ramp, fixing the stormwater issues. So that's a big investment on the state that's going directly to serve the residents of this community. We have approximately $250,000 that is going to go towards the Jenny Grist Mill. So there's an idea that they're going to do a fishway bypass over at the grist mill. Wow. And so we need to start designing what that's going to look like. So if you attended the event about a month ago, the herring run event, right? The fish swim up these ladders and they try to so they can go spawn, I guess that's the term, right? And so this bypass is going to allow the herring to actually swim all the way up there without having to go through the ladder. So the state, again, through this legislation, is going to fund $250,000 that's going to be appropriate specifically to design that bypass.
So it's a lot for infrastructure.
Yeah, especially most of the money that we're seeing that's going to come to town is infrastructure related. So again, we cannot thank the Baker-Polito administration enough for what they have done over the years here in the town of Plymouth, and specifically to our state delegation, Senator Moran, Rep. Muratori, Rep. Lanatra. Every time we're reaching out to them, we're always asking, hey, listen, can you help us find resources for this project or resources for that project? And at least in the short time I've been here, they've delivered 100% of the time.
Absolutely, and they do such an incredible job working together to support all of their communities. And you bring up a good point that some of this funding is coming. It's not part of the town budget, and I think it can really get confusing that where money is coming from, because town meeting just voted on the budget recently, but there's also money that comes from the state, money that comes from federal, money that comes from different sources. Talk a little bit about that and how you manage all of that within the town.
Right. So it's a great question because we don't manage our budget or draft our budget like you would your home budget. So you typically have one source of income, maybe two sources of income. You put in your checking savings account, and then you pay your bills. At the local level, with through a municipality, funds come in from dozens and dozens of sources. So with this new legislation, a good portion of that money is coming from the federal government through the opera bill from the feds. Another portion of this money that's funding this legislation is coming through the state surplus. So they've looked at the state budget, and this year the state has a surplus amount of money. A lot of times they'll move some of that into the rainy day fund, which a lot of us know a lot about. In this case, they've recognized that the cities and towns in Massachusetts need assistance with a lot of their projects. So they're using some surplus money that they glean from taxes, collecting whether they're income taxes or taxes from large corporations. That is helping us be recipients of those dollars. So so at that level we get funding to balance our budget. Usually that's for projects, but even at the local level, we get funding from a lot of different ways. So certainly the most people talk about is their paying their tax bill,
Right.
Their residential tax bill. That is the vast majority of where our revenues come from. But we also get it from local receipts. So if you pull a building permit and you pay $200 building permit, we get revenues that way. Or you have to pay your annual excise bill. That's another source of revenue. So
Rooms taxes for
so-
our rooms taxes with our
yeah,
hospitality
hotel,
industry.
yeah, exactly. Hotel, motel, field. If you go out to dinner here in town, you have to pay a meals tax. All those different taxes, they come back to the town, and it's what we use to balance the budget.
So this funding is totally separate. It's coming from the state. It's coming also federal through ARPA funds. And the money the full announcement will be this Thursday, so we'll be able to report back next week. But they're also, do you know when it will be dispersed?
That's a great question. So I believe the money is going to get dispersed. Well, it will get dispersed this budget cycle, so in FY23. So sometime after July 1st, we'll be seeing that. So exactly what the date is, I'm not sure, but it'll be in this funding cycle. And you're right. So the press conference will be this coming Thursday at 2:30 down at the State Boat Ramp. Again, the Lieutenant Governor will be present. One of the secretaries will be present to talk about the work that they plan on doing here in town, and then our state delegation. And then I've also talked to our local board, so I would hope that we'll get our board there as well, just to have presence there to welcome the state delegation and others from Boston to come in.
Absolutely. We'll be covering it that day, and so we'll be making it available for viewers, for residents to be able to see the full press conference, as well as hopefully getting some additional information, and we'll do a follow-up next week on this show.
Yeah, that'll be great.
Now, there are a lot of other hot topics, things that are happening. I'd like to start off with the Select Board, and they very recently published a letter to the Gaming Commission. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so, well, I'll take a step back. So
Okay.
a week ago, the board had a discussion under public comment about this ongoing issue of a thoroughbred horse racing track here in town on the woodlot. It was very clear during that discussion that the board does not support horse racing here in town. And so they had decided at that meeting that they will go ahead and memorialize that through a letter to the State Gaming Commission, just so the State Gaming Commission is aware of the town's position on horse racing. So ahead of all that, the board chair just sent a letter to the State Gaming Commission and said, just so you know, we're putting you on notice that on June 7th, we're going to take a formal vote. So basically on June 8th, you're going to receive a letter of the board's final position on horse racing, which we all know that they're going to vote in opposition of horse racing.
And they're basically ratifying the non-binding vote that residents took on Election Day.
That's right, right. And this, again, thank you for bringing that up. So, this conversation came 3 days after the election on May 21st. So, the board had already had said two things. One, they wanted to see what would materialize with Boston South, what type of projects could come from a Boston South development project. Is it gaming? Is it a sports complex? Is it hotels? What other technology industries could they bring to the town? And so that was the position they had taken. Unfortunately, horse racing was a part of a broad brush stroke of like possibilities. And so now that the voters had taken their vote, they said 88% are not interested in seeing horse racing. The boards at their last meeting on May 24th said, okay, now that the voters have spoken, we're going to go ahead and deliver that message back to the State Gaming Commission, which again will take place on June 7th. But there is some public conversations that the board's already taken a position, and that's just because of the preemptive letter that's been sent to them in advance.
Now, let me ask you, with voters stating their opinion and the board ratifying it, how much control does the town have over whether or not there would be gaming or horse racing in that location? The land is owned or leased by the county?
So the land is owned by the county. Ultimately, their goal would be to lease the land to, in this situation, Boston South. But I can say, separate from who controls the land, who's the authority with the permitting process, we do know, at least it's been told to me directly, that Boston South will also issue a public statement that they are no longer pursuing horse racing. So you're going to see two letters in the next 7 days. One from the select board saying we don't support horse racing, and another from Boston South saying that we are no longer pursuing horse racing. So the question of who controls the land and all that stuff around horse racing really should go away, because I am 100% certain that we won't see horse racing here in town.
Excellent. I'm sure that a lot of people will be relieved in hearing that.
Oh, absolutely, I'm sure.
And now it can open up to Boston South can continue to do their due diligence throughout the time that they have this RFP to research other options and bring those back.
Absolutely. And so I think Boston South's been clear about the fact that they want to work with the county commissioners. They want to look at possibilities on that parcel of land. So I would expect that we're going to continue to work with Boston South, as a potential regulatory agency around the permitting process and potentially zoning, possibly. But there's some legal things that still have to be figured out. Who's responsible for what. But I think a lot of folks are happy that they won't see horse racing, and hopefully are optimistic as to what other potential opportunities that Boston South's going to bring to the town.
So the conversation can continue.
That's right.
Excellent.
That's right.
Excellent. And there's more to talk about regarding land updates. Would you like to give us an update on the parcel of land in Chiltonville? There's been conversation that's a question for the special town meeting about the town purchasing land that currently is owned by Rick Veo, purchased from Holtec. Would you like to give us an update there?
Yeah, so I would expect, as we lead into the special town meeting on June 21st, that this may be a regular conversation that you and I have, just to give folks an update. So I would say, unfortunately, the Advisory and Finance Committee voted against supporting the acquisition of this land. And so I think that there is some uncertainty around what the purpose of this land could be used for. I can tell you that I had presented to the Advisory and Finance Committee the reasons why we believe this land is so important to the town. We do know, and this all predates my arrival here in town, that Station 1 is going to have to be replaced. We do know that there was a fire study that was conducted in 2021 that basically pinpoints the Chiltonville neighborhood as the most optimal location for a Station 1. So for no reason alone, Chiltonville and Fire Station 1 are a perfect marriage, right? So we do know that, and we know we have to replace it. So if we don't acquire Chiltonville, then my question back to folks is, then where Are we just going to reconstruct Station 1 on the current location? Or are we going to have to go find land somewhere else to relocate Station 1? So that's the first thing I think folks need to be aware of. Chief Flynn talked last week a lot about the need in the next 5 to 10 years to have to expand the police headquarters. So right now he has about 125 police officers, and we know the town is growing. He's going to have to add police officers to that building at some point, which also includes administrative staff and so on and so forth. So it's a 30,000 square foot building approximately. You know, he's envisioning that at some point in the future the town is going to need to have to build a 50,000 square foot police headquarters. Is it going to be tomorrow? Is it going to be in 5 years? Probably not. But in 10 years from now, he is envisioning that the town is going to have to deal with the police headquarters. So that's the second reason why Chiltonville becomes an optimal location, because we do know at some point in the future we're going to have to answer the question around police headquarters. And in turn...
So it could be, have enough space for a compound for public safety.
Oh, this is 25-acre parcel of land. And so for those two reasons alone, we know we need a new fire station and probably a better location. We know in 10 years from now we'll need it to deal with the question around police headquarters. So do we rebuild and expand on site over on Long Pond Road, which is a very busy commercial corridor that we could actually just resell that land back to, for commercial purposes? So those are the two things that we know that we need to attend to. If folks do not support that piece of property being a public safety complex for whatever reason, the worst case scenario that could happen to the town, in 10 years from now we do nothing with it, and then we put it out to bid, and we can sell the property for what we think is the right use for that neighborhood for more money than we paid for today. So we're looking at acquiring it for $3.7 million. It's assessed at 3.4. So to many of us, we think that this is a really good bargain, and it's real estate. So we know that you can never go wrong with those types of investments. So for those reasons, I just want folks to understand what we're trying to accomplish with acquiring this piece of land.
Now, for the special town meeting, moving forward in the process, on June 13th, there's going to be a presentation night. Will you be making a presentation about this question that evening?
Yes. So
okay.
We plan on putting together a video. We plan on putting together a presentation and really trying to get at the root of some of the issues that I think are becoming a distraction to the real reason why we think this property is so valuable.
So Derek, if people have questions and want more information, what would you like them to do?
Yeah, I always encourage folks to just email me directly. My email address is dbrindisi@plymouth-ma.gov. So I'm always on my phone. It's the best way to reach me, and we'll get back the information to residents if they have any questions or concerns.
Excellent. And again, June 13th will be there'll be a number of things happening that evening, but presentation night will be part of that, leading up to the special town meeting. So there will be a full presentation on this question as well, so people also would have the time to talk to their town meeting reps prior
Absolutely.
to town meeting.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Yeah,
okay,
absolutely.
Excellent. So now I'd like there are several announcements, just a few things you'd like to tell us about, I think starting with the ongoing issue of graffiti in town. Yeah,
so I'm bringing this up, and I talked to the board about it last week because it's starting, it's becoming a regular problem here in town. We're getting regular complaints about some of our public buildings being tagged with spray paint. We're noticing even in the downtown areas, some of the restaurants are being tagged with graffiti.
There were some issues down by the beach last week.
Right. Yeah.
It seems to be increasing.
On the wharf, we've seen it. So it's becoming, to me, more and more of a visible problem. So we are working on a couple different ideas of what we can do to mitigate the use of spray paint. Probably have to even go to town meeting potentially for a bylaw change. But what I really want folks to know that if they are seeing graffiti, to contact the police business line. We're starting to track this.
Okay.
And so we want folks to be able to call it into the police business line. We'll track it. will then able to dispatch, whether it's public works, if it's public property, public works will go out there, they'll remove the graffiti. If it's on private property, dispatch will then contact our housing and economic development department, and they already have a company on retainer that can go onto private property and can remove the graffiti.
Oh, great.
So again, it's unsightly, it sends a wrong message to when we have not only our residents seeing it, but our tourists coming into town. So we're paying close attention to this, and we'll remove it right away, but long term we're really thinking about some long-term strategies.
And again, people should call the police business line if they do witness graffiti, either in private or public property,
Right.
so it can be taken care of as quickly as possible.
That's right, absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, excellent, thank you. And you've got some exciting announcements from the police department.
Yeah, so I love talking about stuff like this. Caitlin Burchell has been a police officer with the town for some time now. She went through a week-long training program, and the chief just announced last week that she has become the first female motorcycle officer in the town's history. So again, and in this time when we're always talking about various ways to create equality and access to all folks that live in town, this is just a great example of how we have now our first female police officer who's actually riding a motorcycle. So excited that she actually took the initiative and went through the training. But yeah, so folks will see her on the bike throughout the summer.
Well, congratulations
excited,
to
yeah.
Officer Burchill. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Anything else you'd like to share with us this week before we sign off?
Just that, again, if folks have any questions, comments, concerns, there's a lot of things that that we have on the table right now that we're dealing with. Another one that just came to me today is, the Allison Street Park and Playground. We're trying to remedy some issues up there with dogs. So, those are some things we'll talk about in the future. But the point is, like, if you have a question, if you're concerned about something that's going on in your neighborhood, on your street, something you're seeing, just reach out to us. And my commitment is always that we'll always do better than we did the day before, and we'll always do better than we did the year before. So that's our commitment.
And communication is key.
Absolutely. Yep.
All right, excellent. Well, thank you so much for being here with us again today, and thank all of you for watching. We'll look forward to seeing you again next week on This Week in Plymouth.